Okay. Okay. There's the bell. So let's go ahead with the pledge. Andy, can you bring up the flag? Okay, so we'll start the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. I'll go ahead with the prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for bringing us together with this social media and all the groups. It's so great to see everybody from Iowa City and Marshalltown together. Please bless us as we go into our weekend. Bless our country. Bless all the men and women who fight to protect our country as well too. And also keep us safe during this holiday weekend, next weekend as we go into. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. All right. So I did send out an agenda for my group. So I'm just going to go ahead and get started. And then I kept our agenda very light. And then I'll turn it over to Iowa City and we'll go from there. So July 9th, Matins will be meeting again at the Salvation Army. But as you just heard, some of you may have heard, we will still have the Zoom up and running. And it sounds like that will be something ongoing. Like I said, I was training last night and a lot of other Kiwanis groups are making Zoom basically part of their ritual now. So here's kind of the layout, how it's going to go, because we're not going to have breakfast at this point. But July 9th, 6:30 a.m. will be the social time. At 6:45, we'll bring the meeting to order. And for that 15 minutes, we'll go over the club business. And then from 7 to 7:30, we'll turn it over to our guests. And then, of course, that 7 to 7:30 will also include question time as well, too. Tammy, it sounds like, has somebody lined up for a Zoom guest. So when we're trying to find people to be guests, let them know we have the Zoom up and running for that. I know Pam had talked about on one of our previous meetings about one person kind of cleaning up, sanitizing everything after we're done in the room. I know that won't be me because I'll have to skedaddle right after 7:30. But hopefully we can set up somebody for that. But remember, that's July 9th. We won't have a meeting next week, so we're not going to be meeting at all. Okay, I saw him just pop on. Michael Sills, I hear you have something about the funnel cake trailer. So why don't I let you take that away?
Yeah, we picked up the trailer and took it over to Hamilton Glass to get the windows replaced. They are already replaced and it's ready to be picked up. So we're going to be taking it over to Dawn's tomorrow morning to store it. Everything looks wonderful. We do have to schedule a party, a cleaning party. There's still some glass pieces here and there from when the window was broken by the soccer ball. So we'll have to plan that here in the near future. So that's what's going on with funnel cakes at this point.
Okay. All right. Speaking of planning, there is a sign-up sheet going around. It is today. Fred or Martha or whoever, would you like to take that away about the cleaning of the bridge?
We are on schedule to work on the bridge at 9 o'clock this morning. I have not talked with Martha lately to see who's all signed up. I know that we've got at least 4 people to start in on it.
Okay. All right. All right, Andy, I'm going to let you have it because you have the YouTube you want to discuss, and if there's anything else about the fundraiser we're going to be doing this later this summer.
Sure. As far as the fundraiser goes, we're still waiting for the new logo to pop up before we get that going. But as soon as we have that, we'll get materials together to do a virtual fundraiser with Dave's Cakes. So there's really not much more to report on that. Also, we do now have a YouTube channel. I've kind of held off telling everybody about it until I kind of figured it out. And we now have 3 of our meetings posted on our YouTube channel. So if you happen to miss a couple, Tammy, you can go to our YouTube channel, which is Kiwanis space M. You can search for Kiwanis space M, and you'll find our YouTube channel. And there should be some fairly good descriptions of what meeting and who our guest is, so you can determine which particular meeting you want to view. Any questions on that? Thank you.
Nope. Pretty self-explanatory there. So, okay, Matins, is there anything else we'd like to discuss at this point? Okay.
Well, Frank,
Yeah. Yeah.
Should we say something more about our fundraiser for the benefit of the Iowa City groups in case they want to buy some
Sure.
funnel cakes?
Andy, go
Sure.
ahead.
Sure. Soon, what we've partnered with Dave's Cakes. I don't know if anybody of you guys know Dave's Coffee Cakes. They're out of Rockford, Illinois. Not Rockford, Rock Falls, Illinois. The guy who runs it happens to be my neighbor, and they've got virtual fundraising capability. So between the months of August and September, we're going to kind of start early in July. Look for Dave's Coffee Cakes. You go to their website, there'll be a button that'll say Kiwanis Matins Fundraiser. And if you buy a cake online from Dave's Coffee Cakes, proceeds from that sale will go directly to our club as a fundraiser. Our main fundraiser has been funnel cake trailer. We go to all sorts of festivals and events. This year, we don't have any. So pretty much every single event that we had has been postponed or canceled totally. So we struggled or kind of took a long, what can we do to raise funds besides standing on the corner selling peanuts? I know some of you may have remember the old peanut days. Maybe you still do it. We don't. So we're going the coffee cake route and the virtual coffee cake route, and we'll see how well that does.
And we'll have more information on that on our Facebook page as soon as it becomes available. So just look out for that. Okay. Anything else we want to go over this morning before I turn it over to Iowa City Group? Okay. All right, John, I can see you.
Do we want the Iowa City folks to introduce themselves, or are they going to do that?
Yeah, go right
I thought
ahead.
I could do that since I've taken attendance, and if I've missed somebody, they can remind me. How was that? I believe we have 29 guests on the line. And I'll first introduce Tracy Achenbach, Scott Becker, John Benson, Larry Blake, Warren Bowe, Jim Close, Jim Dane, Ken Gibson, John Greer, Jamie Holmes, Bob Kesselring, Hal Kleinsmith, Ernie Lehman, Megan Lehman, Val Lemke, Evan Matthews, Gene Matthews, Gene Nisley, Rick Ayler, Dennis Preslicka, Aaron Salling, Bob Saunders, Fred Schieber, Kathy Schwer, who's our Lieutenant Governor, and Dick Shepherdson, Clarence Skog, Jan Sobroff, Barry Treidel, and Lyle Weber, and myself, if I didn't say myself, John Green. So we do have 30.
You've got one more.
Oh, Al Wicks joined us. I see you now. If you don't mind, I'd like Megan to introduce our fundraiser that's going on.
Yeah, I'd love to. Much like our Marshalltown Club here, we paused a lot of fundraisers as well, and our signature project had to change drastically. So we formed a small ad hoc committee to figure out what we can do to meet needs right now, and it's turned into our signature project. We're partnering with the school district and the Coralville Community Pantry to pack food in for families. So we're going to be hosting a trivia night, a virtual Zoom trivia night on July 28th at 7 p.m. That's a Tuesday night with the assistance of a local pub trivia host here in town. It's going to be Kiwanis trivia and just random trivia. And we hope you all can join us. We're asking a free will donation to play. The recommended donation is $24 because a donation of $24 will feed a family of 4. So 24 for 4 is kind of what we're going with. If you don't follow us on Facebook, you can find us at Old Capitol Kiwanis, and our event and all the information for the Zoom meeting is on there as well. Our club is going to match donations of up to $10,000. So if you have any questions, please feel free. You can chat me or John or any Iowa City member who may know. We hope you all can join. We really hope that this is a great and a successful event. Thanks.
I was reminded that we have another visitor that's from Iowa City, Old Capitol, and that is Graham Dameron. So we're up to 31 now. I'd also like to recognize this opportunity for Zooming has created quite some friendships, and we visit with the Ames Town and Country Club almost every Saturday, and a couple of those people are on the line. I don't know whether Leo wants to do it or the president of the club, Dan.
John, not only do we have a couple, we have 2 couples.
Okay.
So we have an inner club this morning. Marianne Lundy, Dan Franklin, who is our president, and then Don Bites, our illustrious secretary, and I'm Leo Timms, and we're very glad to be here. It's no longer a dual meet, it's a triple meet here this morning, and we thank you for allowing us to be here.
Now, I'd like to let you, Town and Country, know that I just moved into a unit here at Green Hills yesterday, so I will be looking forward to joining you folks on Saturday.
Fantastic. We will have our meeting Saturday. I'll just announce it. We're meeting. The meeting's moved back, so I sent the announcement there. We're going to be meeting at 8 o'clock now, and this week's program will be our mayor. So you can learn what's going to happen in the city of Ames during all this.
Sounds good.
Unless there's some other
Nestle.
business. I'm sorry.
This is Gene Nestle, president of the Old Capitol Kiwanis. We have one birthday this week, Kathy Schwer. Happy birthday. And we have one anniversary, Pat and Gene Nestle. Thank you.
I believe that's all we have for business for you, Frank.
All right. Well, I got to say, this is great. And I know John reached out to me a few weeks ago to set this up, and I'm really enjoying, looking through the scroll here, getting to see different people. It's been a really, really great morning. So I appreciate that we're doing this. Kind of remarkable what we can do with technology for the good, instead of all the nonsense that's always out there. So with that being said, I think it's time to go into our program. And Kevin, I feel you should be able to introduce our program today. So Kevin, I'll let you take it away.
Okay, thanks. I can't see our program. She's there somewhere. I saw her earlier. So we have my wife, Julie Hitchins from the Community Foundation here in Marshalltown or Marshall County. She's been in the position about 1.5 years, and she has spoken to our club once before, but said she had a second program, so we've invited her back to speak again. So go ahead, Julie. If you're still there.
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone. I did not realize we would have Ames with us too. So welcome, Iowa City and Ames. As I said, Julie Hitchins. I'm with the Community Foundation, Marshall County. Iowa City and Ames, you also have community foundations. I knew Iowa City was coming, so I have interweaved a little bit of Community Foundation of Johnson County into the presentation. Community Foundation of Johnson County and Marshall County have a relationship. Community Foundation of Johnson County has a board member named Nate Kading, my favorite Iowa kicker. Nate Kading's married to Samantha Gervich, who's a Marshalltown girl. And Samantha's dad, Doug, serves on my board. So I actually get a little bit of Johnson County news from your community foundation from Doug via Nate, from Nate via Doug. So good to have you here. Story County is in the same affiliate network I am. So that's run by Sunny Camp, doing great things. She and I are one of 3 full-time directors in kind of our affiliate group, which includes 31 counties. So great things also happening in Story County. Community foundations, I love our tagline because I think this really tells you what we do. We're better together, which, you know, when you're cleaning that funnel cake trailer, if you have one extra set of hands, it goes faster. And then the Better Forever is really community foundation focused. I was working with a couple this week that has set up 4 funds to benefit 6 different charities in Marshall County. And I was showing them that over the past 3 years, they have donated $40,000. And we commented, that's great. And I said, you know what's even better? They're going to get donations from your funds forever. It's a permanent endowment. They will get many, many more donations from you, even when you aren't here. So we paused and celebrated their philanthropy. So really the Better Forever is really the community foundation kind of mantra that we want to serve our community forever with philanthropic dollars. The mission, and this is actually the mission of Johnson County, but you can really interface any county name in here. We grow endowments and distribute funds to build a better community. A little bit about me. I was a corporate accountant until a year and a half ago. As you know, Marshalltown had a tornado. We were personally affected and our city was really heavily affected. I was working in the for-profit world and I had had enough. I was done. Luckily, at the same time, the Community Foundation was looking for their first full-time director. So I believe things happen for a reason, and I believe that I'm in the right spot right now. And I truly love my job. Those of you that follow me on Facebook, that is my hashtag always, I love my job. A little bit about community foundations, if my slide will change. What is a community foundation? Really, I told you, we have permanent endowments to serve our community. We do a lot of philanthropic work. And really in Iowa, we are defined by counties. So each county in Iowa has their own community foundation. We serve Marshall County, Johnson County serves Johnson County. It's pretty easy. Last time I talked to you, I told you we did 2 things. We provide funding to projects and organizations. And we also, and I stole this from Johnson County and I'm going to use it now. We work with donors to turn their passion into action. So that couple I told you about and the 6 nonprofits they support, their passion is with those, and I can tell you, it's really with those 6 organizations. And we turn their donations into their passion. So 2 new things I'm going to talk about that I didn't really know much about last time we talked. Student philanthropy in our high schools, and then our disaster recovery. Not what I want to talk about, but we have to talk about. So the first thing I'm going to talk about, the funding we provide to our community. So because we do not have a casino, we receive gaming dollars. We receive about $100,000 every year. We kicked off this year's grant making with a major impact grant, a $20,000 grant to the Central Iowa Fairgrounds activity building. Pre-pandemic, it was used at least, if not twice, every weekend. They need to upgrade the bathrooms. They need to get a better catering kitchen. And it's a venue that serves to 200 to 400. And that type of venue has kind of gone away in Marshall County, harder to get, and it truly serves our whole county. So we're excited about that first grant. Then in January, we start what I call our regular grants. They're smaller grants. The maximum this year was $5,000. We gave out about $85,000. Community Foundation Board of Directors vetted 40 different applications. They had $70,000 to give out, and they had an ask of over $200,000. So it's sad to have to say no more than you say yes. This is an area we'd really like to build with private donations because we think we do pretty good at grant making. Then our 3 student philanthropy groups each receive $5,000 of that gaming money, and they do their own grant making, and I'll talk more about that. Kind of the big deal for the Community Foundation every year, and I know some of you have attended, is our annual grant award ceremony. We actually, we hand out the checks. What's more fun than giving out money? Unfortunately, it was scheduled for March 24th, so we did a pivot. Online and on our website under in the news, we did 40 days and 40 grants. So each day I featured a different grant. The cool thing that's happened is it's made our community aware of the need. And some of these organizations have received additional donations because the Community Foundation, often we're a leader in giving, and others have followed us. Interesting, the number 40 is also, that's how the word quarantine was derived, which I did not know that at the time, but it's really quite ironic. The other thing, we're gonna have an especially big celebration this year, celebrating 15 years of the gaming grant making. Community Foundation of Marshall County has awarded 540 grants. Totaling over $1,360,000. Every one of those dollars stayed in Marshall County. That happened 83 other times in Iowa. Now, Johnson County, you have a casino, so you don't get this money, but your casino is very philanthropic. They have to have a philanthropic arm, and you do pretty well too. A little more about grant making. So we've got our grant making with our gaming money, and then our funds also do grant making, just like that couple I talked about. This is my favorite chart, and I think it's very powerful. The bottom, the yellow, is our gaming grant money. And you'll see that we range just about $100,000 every year. Unfortunately, with the casino closures, that number is going to be a lot less next year. And that is really hard because our nonprofits are struggling through the pandemic. A lot of them have a bigger ask in terms of what they provide, and we're gonna have fewer funds to give out. The little red piece you see is our Rebuild Marshalltown Fund. That's tornado relief. We've actually granted more than that, but last year we just did, it's on a reimbursement basis, so only one was ready to be funded. The blue is what I'm really jazzed about. These are from our funds. These are from that couple I told you about that provides funds every year to 6 charities they really care about. Last year, $388,000 was dispersed from our funds. All of that stays within the US. Some of it has to stay within Iowa if it's an Endow Iowa fund, but I can tell you the vast majority stays right here in Marshall County. So we have a lot of people very quietly supporting a lot of causes within our county. A little bit about our funds. Looked at them a little bit differently. Of course, Number Girls has to make a chart. And we're pretty evenly based. Our donor advised fund, the purple, those are funds held by individuals. And they are able to grant out money to nonprofits. 501c3s like the Matins, Kiwanis, if they wish. And then agency funds, those are held by nonprofits. Community foundations offer nonprofits that have some cash, and I'm fine with nonprofits having some cash, especially during a pandemic when they may not have revenue and they need that cash. But we offer them a way to invest in the market Our market return is between 5 and 8%, so it's a little bit safer and it's a very low cost. Designated funds, that's that couple that picked 6 charities that they want to support. So that is a fund set up for a specific nonprofit by an individual. And then our committee advised is what we do. We do grant making. So we have a domestic violence fund that was left by Mildred Wise Johnson that grants out between $20,000 and $25,000 every year. We do the grant making with the committee. Rebuild Marshalltown is also committee advised, as is our gaming. So that's a little bit about our funds. We're actually over 6 million, and that's kind of a big deal pre-pandemic. But we didn't have huge market losses, typically 10 to 15%, depending on how people were invested. And a lot of the funds have recovered back to their January 1st date. A lot of our funds are managed by the Community Foundation of Greater Des Moines. You'll remember they are our mothership. Now I'm going to talk about my favorite part of my job, and this is the best thing I think the Community Foundation could have done. And Story County and Johnson County, I don't believe you have student philanthropy. It's very powerful. Marshalltown high school has actually had student philanthropy for about 10 years. They have 20 members. They're led by Heidi Dalal of the Martha Ellen Ty Foundation, which is a private foundation. I get to tag along, which is a lot of fun, working with the high school students. But what we saw being around 10 years, we're seeing the fruits of the efforts. So we had a STEP student that graduated from high school, did STEP for 3 years with us in Marshalltown, went to college, did philanthropy. She came back as a 22-year-old and did grant making with the Community Foundation, and is one of our best grant makers. She's ready to serve on a nonprofit board. She's ready to be involved in a group like Kiwanis. She knows what philanthropy is about, whether it's sharing your time or your talent or your treasure. So what we decided is that we needed to grow our philanthropic leaders throughout Marshall County. So we have started new programs in East Marshall. They're called SEAL, Students Empowering and Leading. They have 13 members, led by Mary Clover, who's a community volunteer, and then Hallie and Tricia are both teachers. We are not officially connected with any of the schools, so we can be a little bit more rogue, which is fun, but it's nice to have that connection. And then LUCK is West Marshall, Leaders Uplifting Our Community with Charity. They are the Mighty Five. Amy Jo Wurzberger is another reason we have student philanthropy. Amy Jo grew up in Southern Iowa. She participated in the ROCK program for 3 years. She went to college. She came to Marshalltown. Amy Jo serves on our board. She is one of our best grant makers. She's a great community member, and she understands nonprofits. So that is what student philanthropy is about. And let me tell you a little bit about what our year looks like. Each club meets about twice a month, sometimes more, sometimes less. Very busy student schedule. It's by application, so we vet applications, and you have to be invited to join us. First thing we're teaching them is what is philanthropy, a little bit about program history, different kind of foundations. I'm a community foundation. We have private foundations, nonprofits. One student asked me, do people that work at nonprofits get paid? And I said, yeah, they do. They do. So we had to determine club names for the two new clubs. And grant making is a really big piece of the first part of their year. They make their own grant application. They develop their own schedule. They also do a needs assessment because we want them to focus in on specific things they want to grant money to, so they don't get 40 grants. So for example, East Marshall, their focus was mental health, and they're going to have some really cool mental health things happening in their school district. The other thing that they had to do was grant making in action. Upper left is Ethan Lamb. I believe he is a grandson of a Kiwanian here in Marshalltown. The students actually presented to their teachers at a teacher in-service in January. They did a great job to tell them that the grants are available because this was brand new to East and West Marshall. We did a lot of practice in grant making. We had them develop their own nonprofits. That was fun, and solicit funds and see how that feels. Each group got about 10 applications, 10 to 14 applications to review. They actually score them all. We have 2 sessions of allocations. The first session, we pretty much just talk. We don't talk numbers. We talk about what grants came in. They go back and they do homework and more research. And then our final grant section, the lower left, you'll see it's messy, but that's how allocations go. So typically they only had 50% or less of the grant asked to give out. So they made some great decisions. We were really psyched for the grant ceremony, and then it didn't happen. So what we've done is we call it our pandemic pivot. The grant ceremony was canceled, but the students did videos. They had their scripts done. They said, we want to do videos. And so they are on Facebook. I'm featuring Raul, who is a Marshalltown student. He allowed us to go worldwide. He was a foreign exchange student. So he had over 1,000 views of his grant ceremony. So scripts. So pretty cool. They did some really neat videos. Obviously, during a pandemic, you have time to do that. Lower left, we had planned a meal packaging event. Food insecurity is a big deal in Marshall County. Had it all set to go at the end of April. Obviously, that got canceled. It was led by the Marshalltown Student Philanthropy Group. They recognized a need in our community. We have a huge immigrant population. And our emergency food box was not being utilized because it did not have, quote, their food. They purchased gift certificates from a Hispanic grocery store, Zamora's, and then Golden Land Asian Food Market. And those were provided to Child Abuse Prevention, who's providing some individual assistance to, unfortunately, people that have been very adversely affected by the pandemic. And I have to give a shout out to Zamora's. We had one family that was quarantined and could not come and get their groceries, and they delivered them. We meet via Zoom, usually twice a month. Typically, we would be done by now, but we are not done. We've done a ton of volunteering. Pandemic, all their student activities are canceled, and they still want to get together and socialize. So we did that via volunteering, obviously social distancing. East Marshall collected t-shirts for the Donco Raymond mask making. And those of you on the call, Donco Raymond is a manufacturing company in our county. They have produced almost 25,000 masks and are giving them out. We've had students and grandmothers making masks. So some students will cut the masks, the material. Grandmothers and students will make them. Upper right is Alyssa from East Marshall. She's going to be my engineer. She figured out how to make an ear saver so the mask doesn't sit on your ears all day with her rainbow loom, which those are the little rubber band bracelets. She made over 40 of them for the vet's home. She also put thank you notes in each of them and delivered them to the vet's home. And then one day we had a really nice day, and West Marshall said, we want to get outside. And so we went and picked up trash. We picked up 4 big bags of trash in State Center and by Lincoln Valley. In the summer, typically student philanthropy is dark. We would start back up in August with the statewide conference. Unfortunately, that is also canceled. But we have chosen to keep going this summer. East Marshall, way back last August, talked about food insecurity in their county. There are no grocery stores in their school district. And the first meeting we had post-pandemic, they said, we need to get on this little pantry project. So they're putting little free pantries in LeGrand, Gilman, and Ferguson. We have secured the locations and the pantries are being built right now. I show a picture of Laurel. Their community actually put in a little food pantry before us, which is great because that's one less we have to do. This will be an evergreen project, so the students will continue to raise funds to stock those food pantries. They'll have to stock them, make sure that they're cleaned up, make sure that everything's working. So really neat work with East Marshall, West Marshall. We've got some really artsy people. They've been doing sidewalk chalk throughout State Center, and then they're painting some rocks. So if you're out at Grimes Farm later this summer, you might see some rocks from them. And then both groups, I spoke with House of Compassion to see how they were doing during the pandemic, and Marge told me we've got a great need. We've got people to make the meals, but they're in that at-risk population and they don't want to serve. So at least once a week, the students and I go in and we serve meals at the House of Compassion. Again, it's just a more immersion into philanthropy. And this time they're sharing their talent and their time. So great work with student philanthropy is really exciting. Now I have to talk about what I wished we didn't have to talk about, but we actually in Marshall County have 2 disaster recovery funds. Johnson County, you also have a disaster recovery fund for the pandemic. First one is Rebuild Marshalltown. I told you about that. That is our long-term tornado relief. Over $800,000 in donations. We've awarded 4 grants, the Veterans Memorial Coliseum renovation and redo. Can't wait to see that at the end of this year. Habitat for Humanity, who has repaired over 90 homes in our community. The YSS building, their renovation. And then the 13th Street District, the West End Park. It is under construction and we are providing funding for a shelter there. We just launched the Marshall County Disaster Recovery Fund, and I can now tell you we have over $50,000 in donations. Yesterday, we received a $25,000 grant from the Martha Ellen Ty Foundation. What we've learned with pandemic disaster relief is that you've got to have money day one. Marshalltown was very fortunate, or Marshall County. We had another funding source. So $35,000 has been provided to individuals for assistance. That is administered by one of the nonprofits. I know the Matins supported the Child Abuse Prevention Services. They are serving people with rent, utilities, and food. So those, the Hispanic and Asian food market, that's where those gift certificates went. There are some very, very sad stories in our community. Everybody that is being served has had a great loss in income. They're not receiving any government assistance, and all have been affected by COVID. Either someone in their family has tested positive and they've had to quarantine. Often it's their breadwinner. Unfortunately, we've supported families that have had deaths. So we will be announcing grants from our disaster recovery fund later this week or early next week. We've got a little bit of timing to go on, but we are still accepting donations. The thing that we have recognized is we've got to have this disaster recovery fund funded before the disaster so we can move very quickly. So almost every community foundation in Iowa has started a disaster recovery fund because the pandemic has hit everyone. Just to recap, the 4 things that your community foundation does, and Story in Johnson County, they're doing the same thing that I'm doing. We provide funding for projects and organizations that are grant making. We work with donors to turn their passion into action. And then student philanthropy is a bit unique to Marshall County. Story in Johnson County, if you're hooked up with a community foundation or want to know more about student philanthropy, I love it. Don't reinvent the wheel, but it's a great way to really build your leaders for tomorrow. And then unfortunately, we have to talk about disaster recovery. And then I will end with questions and a thank you.
And don't forget, people, you're on mute too. So if you have questions for Julie, you got to unmute yourself. Okay. Any questions?
I have a question about your history. how long has your foundation been in existence? And I think the one chart was showing gradual growth and then a spurt in recent years. To what do you credit that increased giving?
So our community foundation has been around for 15 years. Johnson County, you've been around for 20. I did a little recon on you. I credit, and I know Steve Bowler's on the call. Our first director was Betty Bowler, and she planted the seed for many, many, many donors. You may work with a donor for 10 years or more. And then one day they step up and say, yeah, I want to start a fund. We also work with donors on legacy funds. That is after they pass. We call it giving from the grave, who maybe couldn't be philanthropic prior to leaving this earth, but there's a cause they want to support when they're gone. So I really, Betty's work, the first 5 or 7 years she was here, she was hitting the ground, telling community foundation story, and getting those donors at least familiar with the community foundation. It may not have been the right time for them, and it becomes the right time later. Great question, thank you.
Okay, any others?
I've got a quick question. I was trying to chat, but I don't do well with that. A question regarding the, this is Dan Franklin from Ames. Regarding the student philanthropy, do the high schools there have key clubs? And is there any relationship between the key club and the student philanthropy groups?
I don't believe, I know East and West Marshall do not. They're fairly small school districts, typically 40 to 60 students in a class. I know they do not have key clubs, and I don't, is there an active key club now in Marshalltown?
This is Kevin Hitchins. No, our key club is not active right now. And it's not directly, or has never been affiliated with the community foundation and the program.
It seemed like it'd be a good connection there. So
Yes. I totally agree. Yes. Yes. So even if it's not officially a key club, I think maybe I'm hopefully getting some Kiwanis for the future.
And there was a question on the chat, and Kevin, you did answer it, but Jamie asked, since you deal with money, is it federally backed? And Kevin answered back, no, it's not federally backed.
No, I'm the majority of my funding for my position right now is from the Martha Ellen Ty Foundation, a private foundation in Marshall County. And then we do receive fee revenue, and we receive some gaming dollars to help pay for me. But you've got to have another source of income to have a full-time director. So yeah, no federal funds. We're very private.
Okay.
Julie, you had mentioned earlier too that your mothership is the Des Moines Community Foundation. Want to expand on that?
Yeah, so Story County, your mothership is also the Community Foundation of Greater Des Moines. They are a great mothership. They helped us with disaster recovery, getting that fund set up literally within hours of when we pulled the trigger. So yeah, we are affiliated. In order to receive gaming dollars, those grant dollars, the $100,000 a year, you have to be an accredited community foundation, and that is a very, very rigorous task. So most community foundations in Iowa are affiliated with the host.
Julie, we have another question here from Mary Ann. How do student groups get their income?
They are partially funded by the community foundation. That is part of my job. So I attend all their meetings. I kind of co-lead the two new clubs. Do have a private donor that has sponsored the East Marshall student philanthropy administrative expenses, and the community foundation is sponsoring the West Marshall. We don't have a lot of expenses. We try to keep them fairly low, and all the grant dollars go out. So we are supporting them. We're always looking for that private donor with the passion for students and leading.
Sure.
Great question.
All right. Yeah, really good questions. Anyone else have any questions for Julie? Okay. Well, Julie, I want to thank you for joining us this morning, and definitely with all the different groups on here. So thank you very much for that great presentation. As I get ready to close, I wasn't going to bring this up, but the local media has gotten a hold of it, and also it affects Iowa City business as well too. But another retailer yesterday filed for Chapter 11, and that is my business, has filed for bankruptcy. Now, at this point, Iowa City, the old Capital GNC, is shutting down. Marshalltown, we are still able to keep going. There is a buyer in the wings, so not all hope is lost. So, but I think with any of our groups that we're in, with any of our businesses we have, I think now more than ever, all Kiwanis groups, all businesses locally need our support. So yeah, didn't want to land on that note, but my phone's been blowing up now that a few of the KCCI and a few other news medias have announced it. So anyway, this was a great meeting. I appreciate getting the groups together. Hopefully we can do more of these outreaches like this. To the Matins, remember we won't be meeting next week, and then July 9th, we'll be meeting back at the Salvation Army and also have the Zoom set up. So if any of you have anything else, Iowa City, do you have anything else you want to say to your group before we end?
Just so we had 3 more members join us during the meeting, and wanted to recognize them: John Bartholomew, Judy Joyce, and Jim Mote. But we really appreciate your hospitality this morning, and maybe down the road you can do the same. You can join us, and I'll keep you in the loop, Frank.
Thank you. I appreciate that, John. And I'm sure I'll be seeing a lot of you again, since if you didn't know, I'll be Lieutenant Governor coming up. So I'm sure I'll be communicating with people more so than ever. So it was great. And I just learned this whole chat thing too. So Iowa City, thank you. You taught me there's a chat system here. So I appreciate that. I didn't know that. So
well, by
anyway.
my count, we had just under 60 people total attend today's meeting.
All right. All right. So, all right, gang, I got to get going. I appreciate everyone. Thank you. God bless. Have a great 4th of July, and I'll talk to my group soon. Thanks.
Thank you.
Andy, I'll call you.
All right.